All right, House of the Dragon. We had the fifth episode, so we're one episode ahead in House of the Dragon than Rings of Power. So there's 4 episodes of Rings of Power out, 5 episodes of House of the Dragon, and so far, I have to say, House of the Dragon is the better show. It's better acting, better direction, better costume design, better script. I do like aspects of the Rings of Power. I really think they've done a great job with the sort of the scope and visual scope of that show. But when it comes to the scope of the story, it's just feeling stunted in innumerable ways, which I've discussed before. So I'm not going to go into that in this video. I'm going to talk about the 5th episode of House of the Dragon. But I do think it's interesting to watch these in tandem as a parallel. And I think I'm going to have to make another video here, maybe closer to the end of the seasons, when we've seen, maybe not maybe actually like when Rings of Power wraps up, we'll still have a couple House of the Dragons episodes left, and I'll talk about how the shows compare and whatnot. But for now, House of the Dragon episode 5. This is actually a damn good episode. I forgot how much I liked it. I watched all 6 in a row earlier, and I will say, I don't think House of the Dragon is a very binge-worthy show, which is weird, right? Most shows these days are made to binge, and this one is honestly just not. And I'm not saying that just because I like to be able to review these once a week rather than all at once. I think you get a lot more detailed and nuanced ideas and like fan theories and all this fun stuff when it's once a week. But I honestly just don't think I'm enjoying it more watching it again than I did the first time when I watched all 6 in a row. And that's interesting to me because I don't know. I mean, usually it's like these shows are, they're so many shows these days each episode ends with a cliffhanger. You have to hurry up and watch the next episode. And this one's different. This is actually a show that takes its time. Even though it jumps ahead in the timeline, it's still taking its time. It's very character driven. It's very, very much a show about this small cast of characters and the way that their interactions are sort of building towards something terrible. I don't know how terrible. I do know that this episode began and ended with a murder, and they were both horrible, horrific murders. The first is Daemon. He goes back to the Vale, to Runestone, to meet apparently to lay in wait for his wife, who he then kills in cold blood. They're having a little spat. She's on her horse, he's on foot, and he keeps moving closer to her, and she's kind of mocking him, just asking what he's going to do next, and then she realizes, it dawns on her that he's going to fucking kill her, and he does. He moves to the horse rears up and bucks her off, and she hits the ground with a sickening snap and is paralyzed. And when he walks away, she starts yelling, "Oh, I knew you couldn't finish, coward, craven, blah, blah, blah." And so he picks up a rock. And we don't see the murder, but, he's going to smash her head in, which is ironic in a way, since the second murder in this episode is also a smashing of someone's head in, though with bare hands rather than any sort of weapon or rock. So basically, this episode deals with Viserys and Rhaenyra going to Driftmark, where Viserys proposes a match between Rhaenyra and Lord Corlys and Lady Rhaenys' son, Laenor. They agree to this with some negotiations, and then and Rhaenyra goes and talks with Laenor, who she's known for her whole life. They're cousins. And they both agree this is a pretty good match. This is about as good as it gets in a royal, matchmaking situation. But they both also know that Laenor is gay. So she's like, whatever, it's cool. I want to get mine on the side. You get yours on the side. We'll do what we have to do as a couple, as a royal couple. But we'll both, dine how we wish. It's all this subtext within this discussion of duck or, what kind of meat you like. Very Roman. So that all goes well, but then on the way back, Sir Criston Cole basically says, "Hey, run away with me. Let's go to Essos. Let's go get married for love and travel the world and just get rid of all this, let's leave these horrors behind us. Let's leave this world of politics and all this behind." And she smiles. She thinks it's a sweet idea, but she's totally taken off guard by it because she knows she has a duty to her family, to her legacy, to her line, to the realm. And she basically tells him, hey, like, you think I would exchange all of this to go get, you know, bushels of oranges and take a vacation to Essos? And she's pretty cold. And she's basically like, hey, like, dude, come on, be realistic. We can keep on, you know, banging. We don't have to be married. Like, look, I've already arranged this with Laenor. It's all good. But Kristen Cole is like, oh, my honor. I broke my oath of chastity for you. Now you owe me getting married so that I can restore my honor. It's very entitled. At the same time, see, I can't decide with Kristen if he actually fell in love with her, which he acts like at first. But then when he's angry that she won't go off with him, which is completely crazy of him, because he knows she's like the heir to the throne, and that's a totally ridiculous ask. But his answer is that he soiled his white cloak, right, with this broken vow, and he thought that marrying her would restore his honor, essentially. And that doesn't sound like someone who's in love and wants to get married for love. That sounds like someone who's like, oh, you used me for sex, and you made me break this thing that's important to me, and now I wanted you to help me fix it, and if you won't do it, I am going to be a bitter, petty asshole about it. They you know, their conversation is cut short when he walks away, and when they get back to King's Landing, Alicent sends for him, and he confesses to having sex with Rhaenyra, which Alicent was not expecting. She thought he might know something about Daemon. Now, Alicent has had a lot of seeds of doubt planted within her. There's her father, Otto, who's leaving, who's been dismissed and sent away, and she's very distraught about this, and he's basically telling her, you know, as he leaves, you need to prepare your son Aegon to take the throne, because when your husband dies, and he will die, he's not in great shape, and everybody dies eventually. When he dies, there will be war if Rhaenyra takes the throne, and for her, and she will kill your children because they will pose a threat to her, her claim on the throne. Which is actually good advice. This is something that's happened. You know, this does happen in these situations. Friendship or no, that easily, you know, Rhaenyra would almost be stupid not to kill Alicent and her father's children, her half brothers or whatever. They do represent a threat to her claim. Then the second seed of doubt is planted by Sir Larys Strong, the son of Sir Lionel Strong, the new hand of the king, and actually one of the best, like, wisest and most down-to-earth and least self-interested people in the whole show. He has two sons, Sir Harwin Strong, who's actually strong, and Sir Larys, who's a cripple. And they're like complete opposites, right? They're like Caramon and Raceland from Dragonlance. Sir Harwin Strong is, you know, he was a gold cloak at one point. He's, you know, this big burly guy. At the end of the episode, he ended up carrying Rhaenyra to safety. Whereas Larys is a man of the mind. You know, he says at one point, when you're not invited to speak, you learn to observe. And he is clearly another Littlefinger style character. You know, when he approaches Alicent in the Godswood, he basically puts in her head this idea that the Grand Maester had brought her that tea the same night that her father was dismissed by the king, which is, you know, the night after she had sex. And this tea brought by the Grand Maester is clearly an abortion tea. I call it Potion B, like Plan B, but it's Potion B. Anyways, so he plants this other seed of doubt in her, and she's like, oh, crap, like, why is she eating this tea? Did she lie to me? And then she finds out from Kristen Cole that she did lie, not about Daemon, but about having sex. And it's not so much, I think, that this is a betrayal, just a lie between friends. It's that now that she's had these thoughts, like, put in her head by her father and whatnot, learning that she's been lied to makes her think, I can't trust Rhaenyra. And that's a big deal. So then at the wedding, the wedding feast, you know, they've got the Corlys and Rhaenys and all the Velaryons in town and all the lords and ladies from all over the realm, the Hightower. The king is giving a speech let's back up a little bit, but at the wedding, Daemon also shows up, even though he's not invited and even though he's been banished. He's just like, whatever, I'm showing up. Like, try to stop me. I have a dragon. So he shows up. And then the other sort of big twist during the first part of this wedding is during the king's speech, Alicent comes in wearing a green dress. And this is why I'm calling this the green wedding. Tend to go with the red wedding and the purple wedding. And it's the green wedding. She shows up in her dress. And as Larys points out, like, this is the color of the House Hightower. And, you know, this is the color of their banners when they call their vassals to war. And so she's making a statement, like, I'm going to come in during the king's speech. I am late for the party. I am cutting off my husband in the middle of his speech. I'm making a big entrance, and I'm flashing these gang colors, you know. So this is a change for Alicent. We're seeing her take steps in a much more ruthless direction, and I think that that's really going to play out in an important way later on. Of course, the big shocking moment is the second murder. Laenor's lover, another Joffrey dies at a wedding in a horrible way, but we don't hate this Joffrey. He's kind of a cocky bastard, but other than that, he's no Joffrey Baratheon, that's for sure. He is Laenor's lover. He comes with them to the wedding, and he's on the prowl for who is the paramour of Rhaenyra. And he discovers this gloomy-looking knight, always staring at Rhaenyra, and he says, that's the one. He's the guy. He's the guy she's fucking. So then he approaches Sir Criston, not knowing him at all, and not knowing kind of what's gone down between these two. He thinks, oh, well, it's going to be just like me and my boy toy. We're lovers, and we're just letting them, we're going to deal with this. But no, Criston's all worked up in knots. And he basically tells him, I know your secret. Now you know my secret. Let's keep all these secrets safe. And I think Criston takes this as a threat, as not necessarily blackmail, but kind of as like, this guy is holding this over my head, and fuck this guy. I'm really angry, and I'm going to take all my anger out on him. So as everyone's dancing, and as Daemon and Rhaenyra are having a very interesting conversation where she's like, hey, like, if you don't want me to marry this guy because you want to marry me, take me back to Dragonstone and make me your wife. Like, do it. Draw your sword, fight your way out of this feast, kidnap me and take me to Dragonstone, and let's get married. Right as this is all going on, and as Viserys is watching, like, what are they talking about? Suddenly there's a commotion, and people start running and screaming, and it turns out Criston Cole has grabbed Joffrey and thrown him to the ground and is beating the living shit out of him. And that's when Harwin Strong comes in and grabs Rhaenyra and gets her out of there. And we watch as Criston just like bashes this guy's face into a pulp, just viciously murders him. It's one of the most vicious and graphic murders we've seen in this show and in Game of Thrones. I mean, it's just a horrific moment. And then Criston leaves the ball or the feast, goes out into the Godswood, and is preparing to kill himself when Alicent stops him. We don't see what she says beyond stopping him, but it seems that Alicent is gathering her own allies, and the spurned lover of Rhaenyra is going to be one of them. The son of the hand, Larys, is going to be another, and these are clearly men who are themselves ruthless. Rhaenyra ends up getting married a little while later to Laenor, who's obviously distraught, and it's a very gloomy, very somber wedding, at the end of which Viserys, who's been like coughing up blood and stuff, passes out. We don't know if he's dead or if he's just fainted or whatever. And then there's this last image of this rat running up and like sniffing the blood pool from where Joffrey died. So brutal shit, intense. Like, this show manages to be very intense, even though it's mostly like, intrigue and like small scale. It's not like big battles necessarily. That's not where the focus of this is, but these smaller, more intimate conflicts and really interesting like developments that go on. And yeah, the time jumps can be a little jarring at times. And I feel like we miss some things that I wish we got more of, like learning more about Rhea, the wife of Daemon, before she's dead. Just having a little more time with characters before they're suddenly viciously murdered wouldn't be a terrible thing. But honestly, what I do like about the time jumps and the storytelling in this show is that we are moving from one sort of important event to another. There's not filler. It's just, we're getting the punctuation marks, right? We're going from, the hunt in one episode and all that surrounding stuff to, then to this wedding. And well, first to that, like, you know, the disguising themselves and going to the flea bottom and going to the brothel with Daemon and Rhaenyra, and then to this wedding scene. And we're getting, you know, there's big time gaps in between, so we're not getting all of the character development we might want, but we are getting sort of these important moments and these punctuated moments, and that, in a way, is really great. So, I'm definitely Team Rhaenyra still, even though she is a liar and she can be kind of cold, etc., etc. It seems to me that Alicent is gathering around her people who are just bad news. And I don't blame her for this. She's doing her... She's got to survive. She's got to protect herself and her family. But, you know, Sir Larys and Sir Criston are clearly not great men. And I definitely think that on the other side, Daemon is one of Rhaenyra's allies, and he's not a great man. I mean, he's clearly a very bad man. So I don't know if there are good guys in this, but I would say people like Viserys is a good man for the most part. His new hand is a good man. It's really interesting. It's not good and evil. It's more like it's much more shades of gray than Game of Thrones even. And it's much more Game of Thrones than Game of Thrones even. It's much less epic fantasy and much more like this political palace intrigue. And I love that. It's great. I can't wait to see where it goes. I have seen the next episode because I've watched 6. And this is the one with the time jump. So we're going to get lots of new actors. Well, several new actors, but in important roles. There's new actors for Rhaenyra and Alicent. So these are like the two of the main characters are being replaced with new actors. So that'll be interesting. It's a 10-year time jump, so brace yourself for that. It's a big change. All right, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and peace.